Okay. Hi, well, I'm Dr.Chatterjee. I'm talking about the medicine, the Medorrhinum. For yesterday, I have talked the first part of the Medorrhinum about the introduction, the constitution, diathesis, temperament, mentality, and others. To some extent, I have talked about the physical generals, mental generals, constitution, and even some guiding symptoms already I have told yesterday. But again, for the constitution for a basis, I am talking about it because of the continuation should be there. Otherwise, you will be in a problem. So, what will happen? I am talking in this sense because of it is essential, necessary that the guiding symptoms by which we can prescribe the medicine very nicely. The great heat usually the guiding symptom, the great heat in the and soreness with the enlargement of the lymphatic glands all over the body. This medicine is very much a hot patient in that sense. So heat in the part all over the body and the soreness with enlargement of the lymphatic glands and very important and all over the body. So if we think about it, whenever the glands are also involved, that means that it is a psychotic manifestations, and the lymphatic gland are also involved. That means to some extent somewhere there is a possibility of the carcinoma or something else, or there may be some severity in the disease condition that is to be noticed. Next number, the trembling all over the body is usually very important symptoms of the Medorrhinum. Okay, so internal trembling is very important. This is nothing but a subjective symptoms. The intense nervousness and profound exhaustion is also very important. Trembling all over the body is a subjective symptoms. So trembling all over the body is a subjective symptoms, and internal trembling, that is it is not can be found from the outside, but it is can be found from the inside. So the patient usually complain about the that is the trembling, internal trembling, intense nervousness, and the profound exhaustion is also another characteristic symptoms of they are very much nervous due to the disease conditions. Okay, but along with this, there is a profuse exhaustions, weakness, prostration, exhaustion. These are the sign symptoms of these drugs, and we are have to notice it. Then another thing is that the pain usually if we see in general Medorrhinum is a psychotic. So this medicine is also a medicine for the highly antipsychotic medicine. It is producing the any type of rheumatic problem and arthritic problem or the gout and so on. So these are the symptoms that are produced. Okay. So what will you find it? Arthritic, rheumatic, and another thing is the sequelae of suppressed gonorrhea. This is another thing is very important. Sequelae of the suppressed gonorrhea. So whenever there is any sequelae gonorrhea suppress होने के बाद जो कुछ complication आए हैं तो हम इसके बारे में सोच लेते हैं gonorrhea. So in case of the gonorrhea suppressed, we can think of this drug. Another thing is the constricting sensation all over the body. This is also another part, and there is a feeling of constriction. हमारा पास और बड़ी medicine है, cactus glandiflora, anacardium, chilium, and other drugs are there. Where there is a constriction in sulfonic acid, so and so. Then the feeling is that seems to be tightened in the whole body is also very important. That is the whole body is under tightening, under tight bandaging like this. हमारे पास तो cactus glandiflora सही, it is a hardware remedy, but it is not only the cactus is affecting on the heart, but also affecting the uterus and other circular muscles fiber and so on. So sore all over the breast is also another symptoms. That is if we go through the mathematica, so we'll find it. There is the arnica montana is also there, where there is the an impetitorium purpuratum is also there, where there is the sore bruised feeling all over the body. Arnica montana is also there, and impetitorium purpuratum is also there, and so on. So arnica montana and impetitorium purpuratum is a very important medicine for the cases of the this type of guiding symptoms. That is the in case of the arnica montana and European purpuratum, Eupatorium purpuratum. These are the two medicines which are useful in these cases. That is the sodium Bruce pill. Even the Baptist is also there is the sodium Bruce pill is also Linapel to some extent also there. Even so many drugs are there is this type of symptoms are also present. Next number is the state of the colon, especially in the this symptom state of colus. There are so many drugs are there, we are all aware about it, and we have to found that the cholera, in case of the cholera, or in case of very grave disease, or in case of some dehydration and so the collapse wants to be found usually all the time. That is also carbohydrate also there, show there is the excessive burning sensation internally, and there is also a burning sensation at the same time. They once the cold place show they are usually feeling the fan all over the fanning. The desire for fanning is very important, and the carbohydrate is also one of the medicine. Desire for the craving fanning is important. The Krebs fresh air, that is very important of the medicine. Krebs fresh air. So if you see there is the craving for the fresh air, the skin becomes very cold, yet throws of the covers. So the throws of the covers, camphor and sickle cord is also one of the medicine for the cases of the throws of the coverings. Okay, so if we see it, that is the covering of the throat is covering of the covers throws is very important. Camphor and sickle cord is very important. Cold and bath with the cold perspiration, veretum album is also there. So you will find it cold and bath with the cold perspiration is veretum album is also there. Next number is so coldness, burning sensation, sweating. These are the very important symptoms which are present in case of the that is the Medorrhinum. So in case of the Medorrhinum, we will think there are so many symptoms are combined. Medorrhinum produce the combined symptoms of any individuals, provided the signs and symptoms are there. Okay. Next number देखो जितनी और एक सबसे बड़ी बात है, Medorrhinum is a psychotic manifestations, but also it is also another sign symptoms that is a burning sensation in the hands and the feet. It is also very important. Once them uncovered and fanned, it is very important. Uncovering, then fanning, lachesis and sulfur is also there. Lachesis and sulfur is also there. Wherever the fanning sensation is there and wants to be fanned, like the carbohydrate. So in lachesis क्या करते हैं? Lachesis prefers the fanning from a long distance, but the carbohydrate desire for the fanning from the short distance. This is the very important symptoms of the drugs. So next number, so lachesis and sulfur. If we see the lachesis, they are very talkative and very suspicious. They are very jealous. They are very cruel. They are very egoistic and religious to some extent. Sulfur is to some extent, and neat and cleanliness. A lack of the neat and cleanliness is there. There is so many signs and symptoms are also seen. They are the very dirty in the sense. Head, intense burning pain in the brain is also there. Intense burning pain in the brain is also there, and in the aggravation in the cerebellum. So cerebellum aggravation is very important. So burning in the cerebellum extends down to the spine is also very important. Spine extends down to the spine. This burning sensation down to the spine is very important. Head feels heavy. The head feels heavy and is drawn in backwards. This is very characteristic symptoms of the drugs. So the headache along with the burning sensation and drawing in backwards. So head feels heavy and is drawing backwards. Sensation of tightness and the contraction is also very important. Sensation of contraction is also very important, and extends down to the whole length of the spine. Contraction feeling whole length of the spine. Headache and diarrhea from the jutting of the calves. Headache and diarrhea from the jutting of the calves. It is also very important symptoms of the drugs. Okay. So if we see the diarrhea and headache, very uncommon people are seen. Of course, there are so many drugs that there is the jutting of the calves. So there are so many drugs, Coculus indica, even the colophyllan, CPR भी है, कोई जगह में लिखा है. The petroleum is also there. that is the jerking of the cars and smell of the petroleum, this and that is the aggravation. But this type of diarrhea and headache is in a jarring of the car. Also you can think of the Medorrhinum. So we should not neglect this very important symptoms of the Medorrhinum. Okay. Next number देखो throat sensation as if they had taken some severe cold, as she had taken a severe cold with distressing aching in the bones are there. The throat are become the short feeling and swollen. Deglutition is difficult of either liquids or solid impossible is there. So swollen, distressing, throat sore and swollen. Deglutition of either liquids or solids impossible. Throat constantly filled with the thick grey or bloody mucus flowing from the posterior nerves is also there. Throat is constantly filled with the thick and grey or bloody mucus flowing from the posterior nerves is also very important. Hydras is also there. We can think of these drugs. Next number, stools, tenacious, bowels. The stools usually tenacious and clay-like is there. Stool tenacious, clay-like is there. Sluggish stool is there and cannot restrain from a sensation of prolapse of the rectum is also important. Alumina. So alumina is a very important medicine. So alumina is a very important medicine for these cases. There is the straining from the such and such. Tenacious, clay-like, sluggish, cannot strain, and so on. Constriction and inertia of bowels with ball-like stools like this. Constriction and inertia of bowels with ball-like stools like this is also there. Can only pass to by leaning very far backwards is very important. So can only pass to by leaning very far backwards. So it is very important, and so many drugs are there where the urination can pass by leaning backwards are there, and this is also the stools is very leaning far backwards is there. Very painful as if there was a lump in the sphincters, so painful as to cause the tears. Actually very painful as if there was a lump in the sphincter and so painful as to cause the tears is like this. So there is the so painful backwards, and there is a lump of sphincters are there, so painful as to cause the tears along with it, and there is a painful condition of the rectum while passing the stools. Sharp needles like pain in the rectum is there. Sharp needle like pain in the rectum is there. So sharp needle like pains in the rectum is also there. Needle like pain. हमारे पास बहुत सारी drugs हैं. Needle like pain हमारे पास एपिसमेलिफिक का भी है. Stitching pain in the Kali भी also is there. Kali micromica also there. Where there is the stitching type of pain is there, and so on. Oozing of moisture from the anus and fetid odor of fish brim. Fetid odor of fish brim is also very important. Moisture and the oozing of moisture from the anus is also important. Fetid odor of fish brim is also important, and the caustic anhydrous sulfur is also there. Urinary organs is also there. There are so many symptoms which are related with the urinary organs, because of this medicine usually affects both the urogenital organs and so on. So if we see the urinary organ symptoms, sometimes there may be strong body, there may be the painful micturition, there may be severe backache in renal region, emulsion by profuse urination, lycopodium. Emulsion by profuse urination, that is the lycopodium is also there. Renal colic, intense pain in uterus with sensation of pulses of the calcula is also there. Renal colic. Renal colic is also one of the important medicine of the drugs and useful remedy. There are so many drugs our pass lycopodium, sarsaparilla, cantharish, and even Berberis vulgaris fly, and Ushvam Sanka, and besides this, there is a sensation of passage of the calculus. This is also very important. But whenever the lycodium, Sarsapilla, like Berberis vulgaris, Ushvam can usually fails, then we can think of these symptoms, that is the urinary symptoms, and the Medorrhinum in that cases. Okay. Now, so in case of this, and also there is a very important symptoms is there is the craving for the ice is a very important, because their internal burning is there. Okay. Actually, craving for the ice is also very important symptoms of the drugs, and craving for the ice is very important. ठीक है, हमारे पास phosphorus is also there, phosphoric acid also there, where there needs a craving for ice and so and so. Next number देखो nocturnal enuresis passes enormous quantities of abnormal anatomy ammoniacal high colored urine in bed every night, and passes enormous quantity of ammoniacal urine, high colored urine. It is a very important in bed every night, ammoniacal urine in bed every night, and so aggravation by overwork or overplay. Extremes of the heat or the cold is another characteristic symptoms of these drugs. Heat on cold or their extremes of the heat or cold is also there. Next number, what will find it? They are also both affected by these two drugs. Selected remedy fails with the history of the psychosis. There the urine is become very night, and aggravation overwork or overplay. Extremes of the heat or cold when the best selected remedy fails with the history of the psychosis is like this. Ammoniacal urine. Even हमारे पास ammoniacal urine में हमारे पास nitric acid है, हमारे पास benzoic acid है. Mostly these two drugs, all the acid group are producing very offensive urine is very prominent, and that is also present in this cases. Also there are highly ammoniacal urine in these drugs and so on. Next number, if we see when the best selected remedy fails to with the history of the psychosis, painful tenesmus of the bladder and the bowels when urinating is also there. Painful tenesmus of the bladder is also very tenesmus bladder, and blue and bowels when urinating is also there. This is very important. So then the sexual organs is also there. Menses are profuse, very dark. Menses are profuse, dark blood color, clotted, and stains difficult to wash out. It is also very important. So in before the menses, the patient usually very much afraid, fearful because of the painful conditions. And even this is very strange that whenever the menses are there, the menses are usually black colored and clotted and very painful, and they are the excessive offensiveness is also there. ठीक है, हमारे पास syphilinum is also one of the medicine which contains like this. Another medicine is the magnesium carbonicum also there. Even there another medicine is also there. The creosote is also there, but there is an excretion is too much in case of the creosote. Okay, so we can distinguish from one medicine to another by dint of the only the signs and symptoms also. Okay, next number देखो जो metrorrhagia at climacteric and the profuse which flow is dark, clotted, offensive, in gushes on moving about it, with malignant disease of the uterus. With malignant disease of the uterus is also very important. So metrorrhagia not only due to the this type of, not only at the time of climacteric, but it is very profuse for the weeks together. Flow visually dark and clotted, offensive is there, and in gusses out. So it is offensive gusses out on moving with malignant disease of the uterus. On moving and malignant disease of the uterus is also there. Intense menstrual colic is there, with drawing of knees and terribly bearing down is also there. Intense menstrual colic and with drawing up the knees and so during the menstruation period, the patient usually draws up the knees like the magnesium carbonate and gives some pressure upon the abdomen. Then the pain, the Medorrhinum, the pain is so painful, and like that of the level like the pain, there has to be give pressure on the uterine region. And mass space they can support, as in the labor is also very important. And during this is a very characteristic symptoms of the menstruation of the patient, and during the cases like this. Next number, in case of that, is a very important medicine for the cases of the pruritus vulva and labia, pruritus vulva and labia. And whenever they usually thinks of the disease condition, they not there. So aggravation while thinking of it is also very important symptoms of the drug. Breast and nipples are sore and sensitive to touch. Breast and nipples are sore and sensitive to touch. Okay, next number, the breast cold and ice. Even not only that, the breast cold and ice to touch, especially to the nipples. Rest of the body is warm during the menses. Very important symptoms of these drugs. Breast cold and as ice to touch, even especially in the nipples, or calica. Rest of the body warm during the menses. So during menses, these are the very important signs and symptoms of this drug. Respiratory question comes about the respiratory organs. Asthma, choking caused by spasm of the epiglottis. Asthma, choking caused by spasm of the epiglottis. Larynx becomes closed. Larynx are closed, so that no air could enter. Asthma क्या बोला? So that no air could enter. Only ambulation by lying on face and protruding tongue is a very important symptom. So asthma में it is a very important symptoms of the asthma, especially in case of the Medorrhinum. The Medorrhinum, choking spasm of the glottis is there, larynx closed so that the air could not enter, only ambulation by lying on face and protruding the tongue. It is very important. So usually देखा गया क्या the asthma of the patient is very peculiarity is there. The tongue usually protrudes. देखो lachesis में tongue protrusion है, but asthma में lachesis में usually they protrude the tongue. But in case of the asthma Medorrhinum, they usually protrude the tongue. Asthma, in case of asthma, they usually protrude the tongue. This is very important symptoms of the these drugs. Another thing is the asthma. That is Medorrhinum एक सबसे बड़ी बात है. If you go to the Allen's keynote, you will find that very peculiar symptoms of the asthma is there is a relief by the going to the seashore. Asthma, which is relieved by going to the seashore, it is a very characteristic symptoms of the drugs, and that is the Medorrhinum. So one symptom basis I have prescribed 2 cases in my life. Only I have given initially the respective medicine, very similar to the medicine, but after 6 months, when I come to know, the patient usually go to the Puri or sea beach because of they are enjoying there, they feels better there in the seashore, and Puri like this or Mumbai so and so sea coast area में. And why do you spend the time? They told me that I feel better and my all problems usually subside whenever I am going to the seashore area. Only that symptom strikes my mind, and I have given the Medorrhinum, and dramatically near about 17 to 18 years of respiratory distress, respiratory asthma, bronchial asthma was cured. Even the whole family was used to go there, Puri, like this. When I was in Bengal at that time, I have got 2 patients. I have prescribed the Medorrhinum only on that basis, and even 10 years to 17, 18 years patient, they were suffering the whole year. They are suffering due to the asthma problem, but whenever they go to the Puri or sea beach, sea coast area, they feel relief. And mentally and physically, there is no sign and symptoms, so they spend there yearly 2 or 3 times for the as a relaxation period, relaxing goes to the C coast area. So Medorrhinum prescription करने के लिए भी कभी-कभी देखना पड़ता है whether they are having this type of symptoms is there or not, and what is about the physical condition during the asthmatic problem, and like this. Next, dyspnea and sense of constriction, can inhale with the ease but no power to exhale. This is also very important symptom. Can inhale but cannot exhale. There are so many drugs are also there. There is the sambucas. So if we see the sambucas in that sense, the sambucas can inhale but cannot exhale. So opposite भी है arnica montana, arsenic, this and that. So hypersulfur, so many drugs are there which are having the same type of symptoms, but we should not neglect the other symptoms. Okay, cough becomes dry, incessant cough, and these are the very severe, painful, as if the mucous membrane was torn from the larynx, as a deep hollow sensation, as if coughing into a barrel, aggravation at night from sweat. This is another characteristic symptoms of the Medorrhinum, that aggravation from sweats. Okay, on lying down, ammunition by lying on the stomach, on lying down, ammunition by lying on the stomach. It is also very important symptoms. Now let us see the sputum albuminous, frothy, small, green, bitter balls, viscid, difficult to raise. The sputum is also there. There is incipient consumption. What do you mean it? The consumption, that is tuberculosis, severe pain in the middle lobes of the lungs, severe pain in the middle lobes of the lungs is also there. So in case of the consumptions, and we will find it. Next number, see the back and the extremities conditions. What we will find it in case of the back and extremities. There are so many things we have usually observed here. In case of the back and extremities, pain and back between the scapular and whole length of the spine should to touch. I already previously told you that there is a pain especially in the back region, and the whole nervous system becomes painful, and so. So China salve, chimam salve is very important for this case. Intense burning heat is also there. Intense burning heat, and beginning in the nape of the neck and extending down to the spine is also there. Intense burning heat in the nape of the neck and the back and the spinal cord and the neck, and extending down to the spine with a contractive stiffness is there. Aggravation by the stretching is also very important. So rheumatism of the shoulder and arm is also very important. Pain extends to the above the to the fingers. Rheumatic pain on the shoulder, and pain extends to finger is also rheumatic pain. So whenever there we find there is the whole body is become under painful conditions and having this type of condition, aggravation is also we can consider it. Aggravation by motion. So these symptoms also present in bryonia. If there is any rheumatic problem in the right side, upper right and lower left, like this right side, we can think of the sanguinea. If there is any rheumatic on the right shoulder, we can left shoulder, we can think on the foramen is like this. So aggravation by motion is also very important, like the bryonia and other lumbar vertebra becomes very painful and sensitive to touch. Pain in the lumbar vertebra, pain in the sacrum, coccyx, and back of the hips is also there. Lumbar and coccyx and back of the hips are there. Running around and down to the lips is also there. Running around and down to the limbs. Round around and down to the limbs also there. So pain from the lumbar, sacrum, vertebra to down to the limbs is also important. Pain in the legs from the hips to the knees. Only when walking is also another important. Only so whenever they are taking the rest, at that time there is no such pain. Previously I told the rheumatic problem aggravation by moving about on walking. Heaviness in the legs feel as if made of the lead and glass, walking very difficult. Legs are so heavy, legs give away. whatever may be there, heaviness in the legs are also there. There also legs feels as if made up of a lead, and while walking heaviness, difficult, legs are so heavy, legs give away, lower limbs ache all the night, and preventing sleep is also very important. Lower limbs ache all night and preventing sleep, intense restlessness and frigidity of legs and the feet is also very important. Intense restlessness, frigidity of the feet and the feet is also there. There is the terrible suffering in the legs and arms during an electrical storm. So rhododendron is also one of the very important medicine for these cases. Already I told there is a constantly trembling of the lower extremity is also important. There is a moving about it, lower extremities. Then terrible suffering in the legs and the extremities during an electrical storm is very important. Next number is the aching in legs with inability to keep them still in bed. Aching in the legs with inability to keep them still in bed. Bed means को एक रखना मुश्किल है. When giving up the control to himself is the very important to it. When the relaxing and trying in sleep is also very important. Next number, coldness of the legs and feet is very important. Coldness in the legs and feet is very important. Of hands and the forearm is also important. So coldness in the extremity is very important to that. Drawing contraction of the limbs, sensation of the hamstrings and ankles, cramps in calves and soles are also important. So drawing contraction and sensation in hamstrings is also very important. So contraction and hamstring is also important. So in hamstring and drawing of ankles is very important, and cramps in the calves and the soles is also important. So हमारे पास capsicum is also important. Cupra metallicum also important. Magnesium phos is also very important. About this, so contracting sensation hamstring and ankles very important. Ankles easily turn when walking is also another characteristic symptoms of the drugs. That is the carboaluminis, lidampal and medorrhinum is also there. When the ankles easily twisted, okay, almost entire loss of power in legs and arms is also there. Entire power loss of legs is also there. Legs and arms also there. Entire loss of power in legs and arms, exhausted by slightest effort. So this is also another characteristic symptoms of the drugs. Painful stiffness of every joint in the body. Painful stiffness of every joint in the body. So there is the stiffness is also very important. Stiffness of the joint in the body. Stiffness is also there. So if there is any whole body is undergoes the that is the rheumatic problem. All the bones are also, joints are also involved. You can think of these drugs. Next, almost deformity, and after all, whatever happened, we have seen so many rheumatic cases that they are sometimes they become deformed. Deformity is there, and this deformity may be sometimes due to the disease condition, or maybe the excessive use of steroid. That is also may be possible. The deformity of the fingers and large fingers, they become the large puffy knuckles are there, and swelling and painful stiffness. Swelling and painful stiffness is also there. Of the ankles is also there, and so and so. Then our great tenderness of the heels is also, heels tender is also, and balls of the feet is also important. हमारे पास एरिनिया डायडिन is also, calcula 4 is also important, and the puffy swelling of all joints like the wind is also very much important. So this deformity of the joints, they become the large, puffy and swelling. There is the pain in the ankle joint, and there is the painful condition, swelling, stiffness of the ankle joint is there. Great tenderness of the heels is also important. The balls of the feet are also very important. Puffy swelling of all joints are very important, and we will find it that the joint turn becomes deformed, swell, hot and tender. So these symptoms are also very important: swelling, deformity, hot, even excessive painful, and there is the sometimes very sensitive to touch is also important, especially in the joints. All the joints usually mostly involved. Okay. Next number, if you go to the patient in gastrointestinal tract, there is intense craving. The patient has intense craving for the alcohol, which earlier they usually had tried. इसलिए earlier जो है usually they usually had tried, but there is a craving for it. The patient also desires for the salt. The patient desires salt, sweet, ice cream, acids, orange and green food is also there. Sweet, salt, ice, this, orange, green food. There is also ravenous hunger. There is also ravenous hunger. The Medorrhinum patient is ravenous. But also there is excessive craving for the sweet salt. Even there is very much thirsty also there. So Medorrhinum patient का कभी prescription करना है तो desire, aversion इनको पर भी थोड़ा हमको ध्यान देना चाहिए. Otherwise we loser, we may miss the Medorrhinum, and we cannot expect a good result of it. The intense thirst, the patient, even the schemes of drinking, even the dreams of the drinking is also very important of the Medorrhinum patient. And next number about the stool. Stool is very ball-like, that is the ball-like, and that is the Brownia, alumina, plumber metallicum, opium like this, anacardium. They feel constricted feeling in the anus, and he can pass the stool only by leaning far backwards. This is also very important. During the stool, the stool usually passes by leaning far backwards, and in the rectum. And during passing of the stool, the patient usually cries, crying. The stool is tenacious and clay-like. Stool sometimes maybe tenacious, clay-like, sluggish with oozing of the fetid moisture. Then throat affection, the patient is troubled with the hoarseness, especially with the reading. The patient throat is become trouble, hoarseness, especially with the reading. There is the choking caused by the weakness or spasm of the epiglottis. Weakness of the spasm of the epiglottis, her larynx gets constricted so that no air could enter to the lungs and so on. So, इसलिए but we relieved by the lying on the face and the protruding the tongue that I have already discussed. Aggravation sensation of the cold is also settled in the throat with distressing pain and soreness. Throat is filled with a thick grey blood-stained mucus. Patient cannot swallow the liquid because of the congestion feeling and constricting feeling. Throat complaints are aggravated from the heat and when thinking of the ailments is also there. Cough, during cough there is a sensation of tickling. Cough, there is sensation of tickling during under the sternum. It is incessant, dry and harassing. It is also aggravated at the night and when the patient is about to fall asleep. 40 मिनट हो रहा है, अभी 20 मिनट बाकी है. 40 मिनट होने जा रहे हैं, 20 मिनट बाकी है, 22 मिनट, 22 मिनट.
202 को चालू किया था.
नहीं ऐसे कुछ नहीं. Next number, it is a worse on the lying down and better by lying on the stomach. There is constriction feeling in the throat and cough is dry and continuous deep hollow like a coughing of a barrel. Very difficult rise to sputum. It is raised. In asthma, the patient suffers from asthma due to the suppressed gonorrhea. It is also very important. Or there must be some history of the gonorrhea. Okay, so it is not necessary the patient won't have some history of the gonorrhea. It is not necessary. But if there is any history of the gonorrhea in their family history, so we must consider it. Okay, so whatever may be the family background, maybe the gonorrhea, the ancestors may have the same problem, then also you can consider it, the asthma. Suppressed gonorrhea, there is great dyspnea, also dyspnea, suffocation and choking. Great dyspnea, suffocation and choking caused by spasm and weakness of the epiglottis. Weakness of epiglottis also there. The larynx is completely stopped so that no air can enter. It is also another factor so that no air can enter. Can inspire well but cannot expire. This is very important symptoms of the drug is the patient can inspire but cannot expire. So these type of symptoms are also present in case of the Medorrhinum. But so many drugs are there, they can but cannot inspire but can expire, like this. Next number, extremely the burning feet in the hands, uncovered. They are usually fanning is also needy. Their needs the fanning. The content that the easier for the cold, pain in the legs from hip to knee joint, only when walking, ache during the night. So Medorrhinum patient also the aching pain, feeling aggravation at night. Usually at night the patient has to be sit into the chair or bed, and they are lamenting and they are very much painful condition. There are sometimes these conditions are also very much tedious, tremendous, and the joint problem usually aggravation at night, and it has been found that thunderstorm aggravation. There is terribly burning and aching in the legs and the arms is also very important factor. Burning in the palms and soles and aching arms are the rheumatic problem. Due to the suppressed gonorrhea, constriction, tight feeling is there. Both arms and shoulder are also affected. Stiffness everywhere, joint, along with the deformity also, deformity of the fingers and the joints. हमारे पास और भी है rheumatic problem with the deformity, काली ग्रुप भी also है, rhododendron भी है, even the thuja भी also है, benzoic acid भी है. ऐसे लोग many drugs are there, but knuckles are even the snowing देखा गया था, knuckles are very much large and puffy. So knuckles is very important, especially they become the large and puffy, and swelling is also there. Stiffness is also there in the ankles, shrine. The females, they are also genital organ, there are ulceration on the neck of the uterus, and menses are there very dark and stains and difficult to wash out is also very important. It is attended with the intense colic causing drawing up of the knees. The pain is terrible with the bearing down, and level like in nature is also terrible with the sometimes bearing down, and level like nature is also there. Menses are sometimes followed by neuralgic pain. Menses are followed by neuralgic pain, and in the head, breast and the nipples are very painful. Breast and nipples are very painful. Sensitive and sore to touch is also there. Her breast, especially the nipples, are icy cold to touch during menses, while rest of the body becomes the warm. During menses, this is also very peculiar symptoms. The menses menses, and the whole body becomes the hot and the warm, except the nipples are there, which is very cold to touch. Very uncommon peculiar symptoms of the drugs. So even sometimes with one symptom basis, we can prescribe this drug, that is the Medorrhinum. Okay, so the prescription is nothing but an art. So there are so many physicians are there in the market, but most of the time, sometimes they do not consider this type of uncommon peculiar characteristic symptoms, so they are become the failure here. Now, if we see the relationship, this is also very important symptoms of the drugs. We should not ignore the relationship, because this relationship may help a lot. Even what are the next medicine to be prescribed. So, if you comparison picric acid, inability to work right, and priapism, inability to work right, is a very important symptoms. Picric acid cannot work on right side. There is the priapism, also there constant erection on the penis. This is also another characteristic symptoms. Camphor and sickle card is also there. Collapse, skin cold, collapse and skin cold is there. A throws of all the coverings is also very important symptoms of the drugs, and throws all coverings, and collapse is also there. Camphor and sickle card. Veratramama, collapse with the cold sweat. Veratramama album is also there. Collapse of the cold sweat is also there. Syphilinum aggravation is also important. The syphilinum aggravation कब देखते हैं? Mostly night aggravation. Okay, so इसमें भी है थोड़ा amblyopia, anacardium, as if in a dream. As next number, lectin, ammunition by leaning back is also very important. So
Collapse of the cold sweat may verita malmum temperature. Another is the lack and emulsion by leaning back. This is very important symptoms of these drugs is there. Lack and may hai और एक सिकल कर in case of the cramps में है समझा सिकल कर में leaning far back सिकल कर में next number the if there is any fish bone odor sanicula is also very important medicine but there is a fish bone odor is very important symptoms. Now in case of the thermal cleavage we can think general ones uncovering generally if we sheet the ones uncovering and the ones to be fanned all the time takes cold easily and craves for the cold air is also very important of the drugs. Now if we see in particular in general symptoms that we have that I told you about the aggravation that is in general the ones covering wants to be fanned all the time and takes cold easily and the craving for the eyes is also very important. Cold aggravation, headache, peripheral vision, fever and incontinence of the urine, that is also cold aggravation. Heat aggravation, cough and chronic rheumatism also. Heat aggravation, this is another characteristic symptoms of the drugs. Heat aggravation. And another is the chronic rheumatism. Chronic rheumatism, which is an amelioration by the cold. This is very important. So somewhere hot amelioration also there. Somewhere cold amelioration is also there. This is very peculiar condition of the drugs. Okay. Next number. If we see this is very characteristic symptoms of the drugs. So now if we see that in general now of the Medorrhinum, then there are so many fallacies are there regarding the Medorrhinum. Somebody says this should be given ecto initially or at the last time, whatever maybe. Now already I have discussed about all about this. The man says the nocturnal nudish in children if we see the pneumonia. So if we go through in details to some extent about the disease condition, so it is also element from cause of the suppressed gonorrhea. I have told you that Medorrhinum is giving immense relief to the patient and the best selected remedy fails to give relief, to fail permanently improve but only palliate, such ailments are as follows. इसलिए कभी कभी देखा गया है जो प्रीवियसली जो डिजीज कंडीशन था जो उसका सप्रेशन किया गया उसके कारण से ये सब प्रॉब्लम हो गया as a consequence effect we can think of it. Then disease of the spinal cord, if it is meningitis or with or without organic lesions ending in paralysis and of trembling, neuralgia, rheumatism, gout, which can be traced to the psychotic origin. So this nervous system disorder are mostly important in these cases because of this disease, meningitis or maybe the without organic lesion ending in paralytic condition is also very important. कभी कभी देखा गया है जो paralysis तो इसके कारण से हो सकता if there is a history of the gonorrhea and suppression of such and such psychotic manifestation, this medicine may be possible, which can be traced to the psychorigin, sclerosis or carcinoma, cancer or cancer either acute or chronic cancer development when the symptoms point out to history of the psychosis. So any type of cancer may this medicine is also very useful. In case of women, in the case of the woman, chronic ovaritis, self-ingitis, growth, uterus of the ovaries, we can think of these drugs. In case of the woman, chronic ovaritis, self-ingitis, growth, uterus and ovaries, both being a benign and malignant condition with or without psychotic origin is also very important. So whenever the chronic ovaritis, self-ingitis, growth, ovary, uterus, ovary, and the benign and malignant with or without psychotic origin is important. Then if we see it that abdomen, the intense craving for the liquor is also very important. Of course, there is sulfuric acid also there in abdomen symptoms. I mean, there is the excessive हमारा पास syphilis भी है, sulfuric acid भी है, असराम भी है. But also there is that desire for the sweet, salt, ice, cold water, and orange, green food should also very important. Stools का तो मैं can avoid urine while sitting bent backwards. The जिनका metallica में है bending backwards में आराम है. There is a sharp needles pain so as to cause the trying and the tears. Character stool is clay color, sluggish and oozing like the moisture. AV or moisture intensity AV मैं बोल दिया already about the alumina and so. Then throat symptoms also I told, cough, pneumonia, it may mostly middle lobe of the right lung is mostly affected. Constriction of the throat is also there. Character, dry cough, hollow like coughing in barrel, lycopodium is also there. Asthma, already I told. And lying on face, protruding tongue, so aggravation when thinking of it all it. ये तो मैं बोल दिया. Then females, the menorrhagia बोल दिया है. Propose long lasting so difficult to wash so special अंदर में बोल दिया है. Urinary organs बोला है. Nocturnal urinations, history of the, suppose in case of the children group of people, those who are suffering the cough cold problem and some other problems are there. If they are suffering, those who are having the history of the family history of having the gonorrhea, as a result of gonorrhea, if there is any nocturnal urinations, especially children are having the gonorrhea or gonorrhea in the parents, having history of passes large quantity of urine every night, aggravation from overwork, extremes of the heat and cold is there. Okay, when the basic remedy fails relief to give relief, we can think of these drugs. There is intense burning of the feet and hands, and also important burning intense in the heat and hands and feet. Also fan, rackecy is also very important. Pulsatile is also important. Chamomile and sulfur is also very important, and uncovered hand. Rackecy, pulsatile, chamomile and sulfur, extremity the hands are hot and intense restlessness of the feet and jinkam is also very important. That intense restlessness of the feet and the hands, especially in the extremities. There is a aching all over the body is achingness all over the bodies, and especially the lower extremity is very important, which can prevent the sleep. Then electric thunderstorm aggravation, there is a problem. Terrible burning and aching in the legs and so is also obtained. Rheumatism on the right, both shoulder and arms, right sanguinary left phenomenon extend to the fingers, especially stiffness in every joint. Along with this, there is deformity of the finger joint. Utumai bola, puppy swelling and redness, hot. These are stiffness of the ankle. These are very important symptoms. To these drugs, great tendency to heels and bones are painful. Ovibola, swelling and puffing is also joint. Evibola, modalities aggravation during days before thunderstorm and when thinking of pain. Before thunderstorm, modern aggravation. Baby have a psychotic background. Dwarfish baby. Another subject dwarfish baby. Even so many patients, those who are the dwarfish, in that cases, we can think of the Medorrhinum. They are the psychotic manifestations with stunted growth, sodic babies in the Barytica. So in case of sodic baby, we can think of the Barytica, but whenever there is psychotic baby, we can think of the Thuja and the Medorrhinum. Okay. So on the basis of the miasmatic, we can prescribe the medicine Medorrhinum and Barytica. Mentally, the baby is very idiotic or physically weak is also there. The Medorrhinum is also there. So their nervous system also deformed, and sometimes their behavior be like there is a child and idiotic persons. So these are very characteristic symptoms of the drugs. Next number to go, there is the pain, rachitic with enlargement, lymphatic glands are all over the body. बच्चे लोगों को और एक शब्द देख लेते जे पेन rachitic children or all over the body there is the pain or the swelling or the joint pain or rachitic condition are also there. These are the very important symptoms of the drugs, and we have to consider. Next number is the aggravation. Most ailments are also aggravation, whether thunderstorm, cold, even the heat also there. But also also thinking of them is also very important. Thinking of them is also very important. From sunrise to sunset is also very important. Sunrise to sunset very important, and heat is also important. Heat important. Thunderstorm is also very important. And covering, very important. Stretching, least movements and sweat is also important. And aggravation by motion is also very important. Ammunition, all the seashore, ammunition at seashore, reverse of the natrem is also very important. And natrem में क्या देखा गया ना, usually reverse of natrem is also aggravation in the seashore is also natrem is also we have found it. ठीक है ना? But also natrem का opposite is also Medorrhinum. And another thing, when thinking of this is very important, thinking of it is also very important. Another thing is that thinking is also very important, and lying on the stomach is also relieved by the abdominal pain, which is also important. Abdominal pain is also important. Another thing is that there is a damp weather. So lying on the stomach is very ammunition is important. Another is the damp weather is also important. The ammunition by damp weather, causticum, max pulmic and hipper. Although the causticum may aggravation by the cold hai, hipper may be aggravation by cold hai, and also max pulmic may also aggravation by cold hai. फिर भी it is also antidoted relationship. If you go to the relationship, we should not forget it, because of there may be sometimes second prescription contact we have do some lots of mistake. As a result of the everything will be 0. So in case of the antidoted by the ipecac and compatible with sulfur को सारी बहुत सारी compatible symptoms already है. So if you see that in general, then we will think about it. In general, if we see the gross summary of the Medorrhinum is like this. It is a powerful and deep acting medicine when indicated for the chronic ailments due to the suppressed gonorrhea is there. Another thing is that for women with chronic pelvic disorders, women chronic pelvic disorders are there, chronic rheumatism, great disturbances and irritability of the nervous system, pains intolerable, very tensive, nerves give and nerves give some quiver and tingle. Children, dwarfed and stunted growth is also there. Even once upon a time, here a family was from Andhra, Tamil Nadu, there the tire puncture wala, तो उनका 4 बच्चा, they are all suffering from the stunt, having the stunted growth, and dwarfed was there. But at that time, Dr. Mehra was there, and he was prescribed the Medorrhinum, and some other complication also in the babies having suffering from the diabetes. So after giving the this Medorrhinum of a stunted growth or idiotic patient, babies the 7 to 8 years aged, he was cured by the Medorrhinum of son, because of the family history was gonorrhea, and mostly all babies are suffering from the stunted growth, rheumatic, and family was too disturbed because of this. All babies, nobody is healthy. So once upon a time somebody has done crime or mischief or do some pap, whatever you call it, sin, उसका generation, एक generation का ये कारण, गलती का कारण generation जो भी पैदा होगी सबको ऐसी हालत होगी. तो इसलिए be safe, take care, be safe from unwanted sex, otherwise the generation will be spoiled. तो generation के लिए कितना पैसा रखा नहीं, if the generation is not healthy both in physical and mind, mentally, तो सोच लो there is no value of the money, property and this and that. Okay, so mind it. So however, the pains are very much intraval, rheumatic pain, intraval, very tensive, nerve quiver, tingle. So lips are mostly, the nose are becomes of the baby are become dirty, and the tonsils are large, thick yellow mucus from the nostrils, lips thickened from the mouth and breathing like the variety cough to some extent. So state of collapse and trembling all over the body, which I told everything. History of the psychosis often restores gonorrheal discharges, कभी कभी मेडिसिन देने के बाद भी देखा गया जो गोनोरियल डिस्चार्ज स्टार्ट हो जाता है, इंटेंसिटी ऑफ द सेंसेशन इज आल्सो देयर, इडिमा ऑफ द लिम्स मे बी पॉसिबल, dropsy of serous cycle also disseminated, sclerosis also there. Another thing, mentally, to some extent I am giving to some basic idea, weak memory, mostly the psychotic patient having some weak memory, losses of thread of conversation, even they forget their own name also, cannot speak without the weeping. This is very characteristic like that of the pulsatilla. Time passes too slowly, cannabis indica and argenta niticum is also there, it is a macho, it is in a great hurry, hopeless of the recovery, they usually mostly hopeless about the recovery is also there, difficult concentration, the patients are always concentration difficult, fears to go insane, ये लोगों को लगता है जो वो तो पागल हो जाएंगे. मैंसिलेना बोल के एक मेडिसिन है, उसमें से ऐसे सेंसेशन है, fears to go to become insane. Okay, मैंसिलेना, MNCINEALL मैंसिलेना, ये भी है. Sensibility exalted, इसका तो ये sensibility very much hyper exalted हो जाता है. Nervous restlessness, fear in the dark room, dark place, dark area, and of some of behind and fear, as if he or she feels someone is also following him, they are behind him, they are following him, and so and so. The भूत प्रेत के बारे में भी सोच लेते हैं, melancholy है, and sometimes suicidal thoughts is also present in the case of these cases. So relationship, compare lactation, sulfur, syphilinum and zincum, we can compare with it. The doses, if the potency and the 200 and higher potency should be given, that will be beneficial for it. And dreams of the drinking arsenic phosphorus in the steps in the niches position is also fine in case of the stomach problem. Okay, thank you, goodbye. Everything is complete.